they were a new innovation, that's for sure. I was listening to mostly R&B and soul music and blues and stuff like that. That's what I was into. And they came along, so I didn't really quickly identify what they were doing. But I ended up playing their songs in the bands I was in high school and stuff. And then later on, they had a bigger effect for me, I think, more when they got into the psychedelic era. I liked a lot of the songs that came up before that. I thought they were good tunes. But I was especially attracted to Sgt. Pepper type, things and Magical Mystery Tour and all that kind of stuff, because I can go back and associate my life and what I was doing then and what was happening. And I could deal with a couple of early ones too, but I wasn't quite to the point some people I saw in school wearing the buttons and the hat and the boots with the Beatles pictures on. I wasn't quite into that.
When I first heard the Beatles, I was probably about, I must have been about 15 years old. And again, like Tom, I had been a rhythm and blues freak, and I had lots of Little Richard albums, and I remember hearing Long Tall Sally by the Beatles and going, man, this is terrible stuff. After hearing Little Richard, who to me is one of the great singers of all time, and then hearing the Beatles do some of the covers, I thought, man, what do people see in these guys? And then that not Meet the Beatles, but the very first album, I guess it was just The Beatles, right, came out, introducing or whatever, and it had their pictures on a kind of a dark blue cover, just their faces. And on that album, there were mostly originals. And when I heard those songs, I went, oh, I see. Now I see. These guys can really write songs. Now these are great songs. And I played the guitar then. And in listening to what they played, I noticed that there weren't any very good guitar players in the band. Nobody really played the lead guitar. And I'd been listening to the blues and Chuck Berry and Bill Haley and stuff, and those to me were great pop guitar players for the era. And then you heard the Beatles, and it was like, man, these guys are like not very good guitar players, and their guitars are out of tune all the time, and you could hear that on the records. But that was part of the charm, I think, of the band, was the fact that they may not have been great lead guitar players, at least at that time, but they knew how to come up with good lyrics, great harmonies, and guitar parts that, whether they were great leads or not, they would stick in your mind, and they were tasteful stuff, So I really got into that first album after listening to it for a while. From then on, I was pretty much a Beatles fan. I ended up playing all the high school dances and stuff when I was in high school, and of course we did just a ton of Beatles tunes. We all had Beatle haircuts, we all had Beatle boots, we all had Beatle coats. I mean, that was, I would say they were one of the major influences in my career, I think. She's So Fine, I think, isn't that? I Feel Fine. That was one of my favorite tunes, I think, when that tune came out. I loved the feedback, and that was like the first early feedback that anybody really did, between the Beatles and The Who. I think that was like the Yardbirds. I loved loud guitars. I was really getting into that kind of a thing, and that was the first feedback the Beatles did, and from then on it was Jimi Hendrix all the way.
Well, I think Pat covered it. The Beatles were obviously a mark in the music history books, and they changed the whole stream of music, the way it went, the way people thought about it, the way people approached it. The intellectualism of the band in the long run came through, which was something that was necessary, I think, to move things along, and it stayed with that group all the way down the line. I think the whole band, Ringo's a drummer and as well as the guitar players, but the whole band as a unit was a magic. When you start singling somebody out, whether it's Gene Krupa or not, I mean, everybody has that strength, and he made that section of the band work. Yeah, it's the chemistry, especially in rock. especially in rock, more than any other form of music. It's the personality of the people together that make it. I think Ringo was great, and had a chance to meet him very, very briefly, and he's quite a character. And he's a marvelous actor, too. I mean, I think all the members of the band have an intellectual side to them that most people don't know. Very serious, very intellectual, very thinking, very knowledgeable, and that added to that band. Now, very esoteric. Like Norwegian Wood was a song that ever so haunts me daily. And I'm saying this, I mean this very seriously, because it has such a great feel to it. All in all, though, what he said, and although I'm not really a fan, I'm a Stones fan, and that kind of an offshoot. There's no doubt that they were a great band, and great individuals.